Now, last thing, a few really beautiful, useful phrases, which maybe you take a screenshot of and learn them by heart. Gorgeous. These are things you might actually hear out there quite often. Looks good, love you. Ich muss mich wohl verhört haben. So someone says something nasty to you, yeah, or maybe insults you, you could react a little bit offended and say, I must have heard that wrong. Yeah, ich muss mich wohl verhört haben. Can you identify which tense this is? Is it present tense? Is it future one? Is it future two? Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between English and German, John, but sometimes they can be misleading. Yeah, but it always helps to see where it does and where it doesn't work the same way. So, ich muss mich wohl verhört haben. I asked a question which I actually have forgotten. Funny. So, and the other one, das wird wohl nix werden. Yeah, so you watch someone doing something clumsily and you say, it's probably not gonna happen. It's not gonna work out. Das wird wohl nix werden. It's also like, that's not going to work out. Beautiful. I asked what future it was. Yes. So the first example, ich muss mich wohl verhört haben, you have verhört, which is the past participle, and haben, ich habe mich verhört. So that's the past participle. It can only be the future too. Remember the past of the future or the future of the past. Das wird wohl nix werden. Which tense is that? You have wird and werden. Two times werden. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It's certainly not the present tense. Present tense has one verb. So it's the future one. It's not the past tense, Suprajit. Nothing here is the past tense. It's the past in the future. So there's always future tense involved or the present tense. Sie wird wohl verschlafen haben. Verschlafen is oversleep, sleep too long. Okay, didn't hear the alarm clock. So you see wird, and you have again verschlafen, which is a past participle. So this is obviously future too. And the last one, if you say so, then it is so. So that will probably be the case. Yeah. So if you say so is actually something you could say in English. Das wird wohl so sein. Yeah. I have the wohl in all of these. If you say so, it's true. And it's used in the same kind of sentiment as you would in English. These are lovely questions. Try to use them at least once a week or twice a week to see, just for fun. Yeah. Sie wird wohl verschlafen haben. By the way, you could put the verschlafen, you could put anything there. So you assume that someone, let's say someone comes late for a meeting and someone asks, what happened to Maria? And you could say, well, she very likely has overslept. And then you would use that sentence. Yeah. You could also say maybe she, you think of something. Yeah. She could also be in a traffic jam or something. Good. So you see, there is actually use cases where you use that, but it's not used in the sense of the future. You don't have to think, oh, am I speaking in the future or what? Or we present tense it is for you. And if something is in the past, it's the past, it's the perfect past tense. That's all. Yeah. Yeah, Daniel, in a way it's true. If you have heard something wrong, someone must have said something before. So the actual situation happened in the past, or actually, my apologies. My apologies in the first one, you caught me. So the first one, I was so keen on finding some nice use cases. I didn't realize that. The first one is a modal use of the modal verbs. Yeah, like in the sense of, I must have heard wrong. It's not that you were forced to hear wrong. It's kind of an expression of that happened. Nice. Yeah, really nice. Tom has also a nice question. What would sie hat wohl verschlafen mean? Also nice. The wohl already gives that away. You can also use that. Yeah, I would use either. Very nice. John, sie wird on its own is not future, because after wird there could be another kind of verb. Sie wird plus infinitive or plus this construction that you see here, that would build the future. Be careful with that. Yeah. But again, the future, how to build it and how to use it, that is taught in my courses and in your course at one point in B2. Yeah. Yeah, good. I will correct this one later. You would see it in the replay though. And remember that I made a mistake here. Yeah. Dian has a nice question. We are at the Q&A anyhow. I go a little bit of advertisement. If you're not working with Smarter German already, take a look at the first lesson that I offer for free. It's a vast lesson. It's a lot of input. And he's like 70% of the people here already work with my course. You can hopefully say something nice. The first lesson will teach you things you will not learn anywhere else. And the manner I teach, the way in which I teach is unique. Yeah, it's simple, it's easy, it's just really enjoyable. And I have a different view on how things should go when learning. Yeah, very often there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of expectation and pressure when people start learning a language, and that really spoils the whole thing in the long run. And my aim is to really make this enjoyable. So if you take a picture of this, your computer, your phone should suggest you the homepage. You register, you need an account, otherwise we cannot track the account. You will get some marketing emails that very lovely people have written for you, and you can unsubscribe after the first one immediately. It's up to you. Yeah, but I always really pay attention to providing value for your time. I'm in love with providing value for time. Yeah, time is the most precious thing. So one last question, or two questions we had. The difference between future one and future two. That was a question from Maria. And Dian asked, werden translates to become, right? Dian, no. It doesn't translate to become. In 1% of the times that you see the word werden, it actually translates into become. So for you, that means never. At least you might already be B2, yeah? So it rarely means to become, because when do you use to become? I become a father, I become a policeman, yeah, or this becomes old, this gets old. So very few use cases. Very often werden is not translated at all, but used to build the passive or the future, as you've seen today. That's the main use of werden. And there you really don't translate, you just use it to build a more complex structure. Passive, I said, did I say that? Yeah. Okay, so a few more questions. Werde and wird, the difference. Thank you. Nice recommendations. How many pairs of glasses do you have? I have an extra room for this. Yeah, my rent really went up because of that. I actually usually don't wear glasses anymore because I found a trick to see clearly now. But for reading, these are helpful. And back in the days when I made the video, I actually had a friend who had a glass fetish, glasses fetish, not glass fetish. That's nice. Yeah. Carol, you find a replay in your email inbox within 24 hours or a bit more. I think you have to initiate it manually. Okay, so the difference between future one and future two. Well, look at the translation. Let me go back a little bit here. So in the middle, you have the future one. The difference is I will buy a car next week. That means I predict that something will happen next week. Yeah, or I assume something will happen next week. While if you take a look at future two at the bottom, ich werde wohl nächste Woche ein Auto gekauft haben, I predict that something in the future, or I assume that something in the future will be finished. So if you think of the future, you really go there in your mind. You go like to next week, Thursday, and you imagine yourself at a car dealer's house, and then you see yourself sign that thing. And you have finished signing the contract. The deal is done. The action is finished. And that's when you use the future too. If you imagine yourself going there, nothing is finished yet. You're just going there. Yeah, you're looking around. You haven't done that. Then you take the future one. That's all. So future one is kind of the preparation of the future two. That's the clearest I can say. But again, yeah, it's more used like in everyday life to make assumptions like this one. And the third one, sie wird wohl verschlafen haben. Yeah, she will very likely have overslept, or she will very likely be pregnant, or whatever you do with a man. You will very likely be drunk when he sends messages. Yeah? Thank you all. How should we practice speaking an accent? I go back to the questions in a minute. So the Q&A is starting. Anyone who has to go, I'm just highlighting the questions. So Brigitte, I'm not sure whether I missed your question. I read it, but I took something first. But maybe you can repeat it. Here. No, I've highlighted it. Don't worry. So, if I complete my B1 level in the first chance going through your A1 B1 course, what kind of effect will it have on my German language skills practically? I know it's thinking ahead, but just out of curiosity, would I be able to communicate with natives vividly about having B2 or more? Absolutely not, Subhajit. B1 is the elementary school of language levels. Yeah, A1 is you start crawling. A2 is you kind of lift yourself up on a chair. And B1 is making your first steps. It's the base. It's the most important, most crucial stage, which is why I love it so much, because it's important that you really have strong legs and try, and you actually keep getting up and falling and keep getting up until you can walk. B2 is then trying to gain speed and stability. So there's a clear definition, there's a definition of what B1 means. If you Google B1 Common European Framework of Reference, CEFR, on Wikipedia, you will, and there's an English article about it, you look at reference classes or whatever that's called, language levels, they will describe that. Usually B1 means you can get by easily in situations that are familiar to you. You can talk about topics that are very familiar to you, which is family, where you come from, what you like to eat, and maybe your hobbies. So that is not a vivid discussion about anything, unless you have a vivid discussion about that you come from India. Yeah. But it depends on you. The more time you have, the more thorough you work with, especially my course, but also in other courses, and the more apt you are in taking in the language, the more fluent you will be. See, the problem with these levels, I just use them because it's business. I have to kind of give you an orientation, and that's also what they are. They're just an orientation. Yeah, you can say, where's Rome? I can show this direction. You know, there's many ways to get to Rome. Yeah, in the past they said always lead there, but I don't agree with that. So B1 could be very, there is a huge Spielraum, wiggle room between a bad B1 and a very good B1. So whatever that means for you depends on how good you do your homework and how good of a learner you are. It's hard to predict. So surprise yourself and really give everything and just enjoy it. It's hard work, it's a lot of work, but if you enjoy it, nobody cares. Well, nobody cares anyhow, but you actually wouldn't mind the hard work if you enjoyed it. Yeah, I always give the example of playing squash. If someone plays squash, it's an immense effort. Yeah, it's a strain to play squash. It really exhausts you completely if you don't stop in time. But nobody minds. It's fun. So learning German, at least with Smarter German, can be like playing squash. And hopefully it will not exhaust you, because I will put a stop before you get exhausted. Yeah, I will always remind you to take breaks. It's very important, because it's also not the aim of squash to completely exhaust you so that you cannot move for a week. Yeah. Shiva asked, what's the difference between werde and wird? Shiva, if you seem to be a beginner, right? So wird is just the he, she, it form. Ich werde, du wirst, es, sie wird. So it's basically what we call the conjugation. Verbs in German change. In English, they do change as well. Let me an example like go. I go, you go, but he, she, it goes. So in English, you only have this change, and that causes already enough trouble. In German, you have 6 changes. I only have 5 fingers, but imagine it's 6. Yeah. So that's the conjugation, the change of the verb according to the person that is doing something. You will come across this, I think, even in the first lesson of my course. So it's free. Take a look at the first lesson. Yeah. Milan says, how many pairs of glass? Okay, we had that. Carol, I answered already. Draw some timeline for the future and 1 and future 2. Somewhere, is that still necessary? It's not about time. It's about really assuming something is finished in the future or not. Yeah, something is about to happen. How should we practice speaking and accent? Amol, unless your accent is extremely strong, don't worry about it, especially if you're a beginner. Yeah? Really, it will come. The most important thing, especially for pronunciation and speaking in general, is listening. It's extremely hard to learn to listen. There's several layers of listening. There's the mere noise you perceive, yeah, especially if you don't understand. German language might as well be just a noise, pleasant or not pleasant. But then there's a level where you understand meaning. That's something that actually you are striving for because you want to understand what people want from you and also want them to understand what you want from them. And then there is structure, form. How do people say that? So all these three things need to be mastered somehow. And you do so step by step, at least with my course, but also in any other good course. Yeah. Ola asked whether I have an Aussprache course, a pronunciation course. So, yeah. Can I recommend anyone? I want to have a fancy practicum. I'm a bit ashamed of the way I speak. Ola, that being ashamed or feeling ashamed about the way one speaks is pretty common, unfortunately. It's not necessary. You are making an effort to speak a language that is... I can actually turn off the slides. It's quite an admirable effort. You make an effort to understand me. If I mock you for this, then I have no nice word for that. Yeah, an asshole. So, but of course, if they don't understand you and you feel like you could improve it, that's fine. But tell me what level you are at, and then I can take a look at this. If you want if you use my first lesson, there is a technique called preaching. If you could skip ahead if you want to, but you would miss out on other nice things. Maybe you're already working with the course. If you use the preaching, you use a tool called speech notes. Speech notes gives you visual feedback on how precise you speak. If they understand you more or less properly, your pronunciation is good enough. And good enough is all you need. Yeah? Harshal asked whether we have this grammar in B1. I'm working on A2. As I just said, you don't need the footer 1 nor the footer 2 up until B2. So you can relax. It's just something you might come across in the books and videos you watch, in the books you read. Maybe it even appears in my course here and there because it's not sterile. It's just was created in a flow. Okay, last question, and then we're done. Thank you for all this. So what it is, I got what you explained, but the university mentioned B1 as the required criteria. So what can I expect to have gained in doing B1 as far as my speaking, reading, listening, and writing skills are concerned? What I said, it's not different whether the university says you need that or not. So if you need a B1 test, prepare for a test. Yeah, and that is a bit different. You need to look at my B1 exam hacking course, which I created specifically for people who need a test. But it just teaches you test strategies, how to save precious time, how to feel more at ease when doing an exam, which is very, very helpful. If you have ever taken an exam, you will highly appreciate this approach. It's the same. And by the way, Subrajit, you can also, if you want, you can take a look at Oral Exam B1 German on YouTube and watch 3-4 of these and see where they are. You get a feeling for what is there. Don't expect to be that level. And there's also people that really differ in their level. They do show you that there is a bad B1 and a good B1. Yeah. Some people in that exam, in the sample exam, have been living in Germany for 20 years. Of course, they speak more fluent, even though broken. So take it easy. You'll be fine. C1 in the Hochschule. Oh, that's good. I'd love to speak without accent. Olha, may I ask you why you would even bother with this approach? If you do whatever you want, yeah? But I'm a big fan of the 80-20 principle. That means you put in 20% of the work that creates 80% of the success. So, and you know how hard you've worked for getting to C1. That were your 20%. What you're now trying is to squeeze out the last 20% of your success, which requires 80% of the work, so 4 times more work than what you've already invested. Why would you torture yourself with that? What's the benefit of sounding perfect? So what do you mean by fancy practicum? Do you want to be a presenter or something? These are very specific questions that I don't deal with. I would look for someone called a logopede if that's really important, but it might be, take a look at what I wrote, that costs money. Yeah, but if it's really that important to you, you have to work with a professional, but it's really unnecessary. In my 20 years of working in this field, it's rather a neurosis to get there, and in very few cases, it might be the case in your case, people actually need this. But we had famous people who had an accent and they were loved for this accent. It's a part of your personality to sound different. Yeah. Again, you might have your reasons, but in my experience, I can only advise against trying such a thing. Yeah. Okay. Just my advice. Feel free to invest your time in that if you have nothing better to do as well. Yeah. And maybe it is just fun for you. Then it's of course also fine. Anything that's fun, why would I object? I always come from a very pragmatic background. Michelle has taken 2 years of German through Goethe Institute 16, 17 years ago. I've spoken some German between then and now. What level should I start with now? Hard to say without seeing anything written in German or hearing you speak. But what level have you achieved by then, and how intense were the 2 years? So you can preview my A1 to B1 course. The first lesson is freely available, and the B2 course, you can also preview the first lesson. Take a look and see how it goes. There's also some kind of tests which should take with a grain of salt, because they just online tests, and they are still limited in what they say. And you can keep me posted about the results, and any other questions you can always ask via email. Yeah. B2 niveau in Smarter German. B2 is already there somewhere. C1 is in the making. Takes a while. Yeah. Okay. Again, you can reach me via email. If you're a learner of Smarter German, you have access to my Smarter German community. Otherwise, let me know. A learner of Smarter German means you've paid for my courses. The community is for paid members only to assure there's high motivation. Yeah. Thank you for being here. My apologies for the technical trouble. Happens at times. I hope the next one will be better in this regard. Yeah. Have a lovely, lovely day, and wish you success with whatever you plan to do. Above all, try to enjoy it. Life is short, and German is such a beautiful language. Would be a waste to get angry or frustrated about it. Yeah. Anusha, take a look at my homepage and read what is written there, and the FAQ, it will tell you everything. Yeah. There is no length to my course. Yeah, Subhajit, I know you're active. We've been in touch. Bye-bye. Thank you. And give me feedback on this thing. It can be the stars, but it can also be an email. What would you improve? Except the obvious mistakes I made. Bye-bye. Auf Wiedersehen. Bis bald. Bleibt gesund. Alles Gute. Ciao.